Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV, where we are, in front of Tilaka to continue our Fisher Rolequest. And, I think we have a quest now, not a delivery for him. So let's see. Thanks to your most selfless contribution, I draw closer and closer to proving my hypothesis correct. Other cleaners have also been helping me by continuing to find specimens for me in calmer waters. But I would gather data from further and further afield, which is of course where you come in. Professor? Brace, it's not like you to get so excited, whatever is the matter? But I haven't introduced you to yet, have I? Mrs. O'Bressy, one of my new research assistants. She's been a great help in analyzing all the data we've collected. I appreciate the vote of confidence, but with no time for pleasantries, a whale has somehow wandered its way into Scholar's Harbor. The Harbor Masters requested that you come and assess the situation with all haste. Oh dear, I suppose we'd best be in a hurry then. My apologies, but it seems our work will have to wait until later. In the meantime, would you accompany me to the harbor? Your insight into the situation could prove most valuable. Stranded whale? Okay. Well, almost stranded anyway. I believe it was somewhere around here. Look, everyone must be concerned. It's not every day that a massive whale finds its way into the harbor. That's a breed that calls the Northern Sea Zone. It's not especially rare to see them off the coast, but I've never heard of one coming so close to land as this. Is this a whale? This looks very weird for a whale. Whatever. It's most strange. It doesn't appear to be wounded, nor have there been any notable storms of late. Whatever might have caused it to veer so far off its normal course. Well, indeed. At any rate, we need to move it to one of our facilities and ensure it's kept safe, where we tend to its wounds it may have and study it more. I suppose we should check its aether levels as well. Ready a team for me, O'Bressy. Of course, Professor. This may be quite the undertaking. My apologies, but our project will have to wait a while longer. Let us reconvene back at Searcher's Meet and discuss the matter further. Once you're done with this task. You can probably assume that if this were real world, it would be a come back in 2 days kind of thing or something like that. Even if he hurries. Oh, hello there. I'm so very sorry for keeping you waiting. We just finished tending to the creature's ailments and doing some preliminary analysis. As we suspected, the whale hasn't sustained any major injuries. However, it does seem to be suffering from severe aether sickness and is highly disoriented as a result. Needless to say, I can sympathize. The creature's aether levels were also cause for concern, which would explain why it wound up somewhere so far from its usual habitat. That said, we're still none the wiser as to what caused all of this. How goes it, Tilaka? Oh, and Desiree, what a pleasant surprise. I've heard all about your predicament with a wayward whale. Master Kite, To what do I owe the pleasure? I was simply hoping to pick your brain about something that I imagine is related to your line of work. Around the same time your larger-than-life friend wandered into the harbor, a veritable legion of fish washed ashore in Yetlimat, near the experimental aetherite. That sounds too familiar to be my coincidence. Curious behavior by aquatic life form has been known to port in natural disasters. Yes, this strikes me as very much related to my studies. That said, nothing I've gleaned thus far suggested that aether currents can change so drastically as to inflict nearby creatures with aether sickness. All I've observed suggests that the currents of the planet follow a simple and regular rhythm, not unlike the tides. Indeed, the entirety of my research up until now has been focused on proving this point. If there has been a sudden disturbance in the underwater aether currents, then it will take some time to determine the cause. I also need to attend to the whale, and then we'll have time to return to my thesis. For the whale, the studio has already announced that it will be dispatching a vessel to research the aether currents in the seas near Charlian. It won't benefit any of us if such incidents continue to occur after all. If you wish to investigate the link between the two events, as Master Kita suggested, then perhaps we should pay a visit to Fafnir? An astute suggestion. You could recruit the help of one of our colleagues over there, or wait a minute, I believe you have a perfect woman for the job right here. Sure, I go to Fafnir. As generous and dependable as ever, yes, I knew you'd be up to the task. I would accompany Desiree. You would? When was the last time you ever ventured outside the studium grounds? That's not important. Desiree has risked life and limb to help me with my research. I can't just keep leaving all the hard work to her. But, Professor, going to Fafnir means you would have to travel via the aetherite, or by ship. Not that you handle that any better. You don't have to tell me that. Still, time is of the essence. Besides, I'll never be truly respected as a researcher if I don't go out and get my hands dirty from time to time. I have let my fears rule me for far too long. Today is the day I conquer them. Well, it's clearly not going to change your mind. At least try not to cause Desiree too much trouble. Now that you mention it, I hadn't consulted you on the matter. Desiree, do you mind if I join you this time? Come along. Fantastic. In that case, I'll see you in Yedlimat. The professor was saying he would go on ahead to Yedlimat and wait for you by the experimental aetherite. I do hope he isn't too much of a nuisance for you with his aether sickness. Yeah, and remember, the experimental aetherite is particularly bad in that regard. I found this fellow rolling about in his own vomit a short while ago. Not a pretty sight, I assure you. I'm not sure I've ever seen someone suffer from such severe aether sickness. Desiree? Is that you? You know this fellow? The poor man was so ill I thought he might die. I had not believed anyone could suffer from such severe aether sickness if I hadn't seen it myself. Be glad you went here to see me immediately after I arrived. It was even less pretty a sight than what you witnessed at the Aetherite Plaza back in Charlian. And don't even get me started on the most ghastly visions I saw. Countless replicas of myself dancing, singing, and spinning. Oh, spinning. Please make us. Oh. I suggest you lie down for a while still, friend. It wasn't so long ago that you were convulsing on the ground, spitting up some ghastly bile. You're right, my friend. My apologies for making you worry so. I'm truly sorry about this. Might you be so kind as to ask around while I rest here a bit more? Don't you worry. Your friend will be safe with me. I know not what business you have here, but pray attend it. Preoccupied alchemist. I've never seen anything like it. Entire schools of fish suddenly washing ashore. There were so many you couldn't see a single grain of sand. Our fishes have their hands full trying to clean up a mess even as we speak. Troublingly, we have no idea what caused it. It's not as if anything ominous occurred to portend such an event, where the night before was peaceful as always, the full moon shining bright in the night sky. Now that you mention it, there was one thing out of the ordinary earlier the day before the fish appeared. The river that ran here from the shroud of Samgar was swelling like mad. The seawater flowed back into the river, and some say they saw it carrying fish deep into the woods. That sounds weird. Ah, you think this is a lot of fish? You should have been here earlier. This is a massive improvement, believe you me. No time to rest though. If they start rotting, the stench alone will be enough to make the whole town ill. Anything unusual happen besides that? What's especially bizarre is that these fish normally stay away from land altogether, save for when they go up the river to lay their eggs, that is. Anyhow, I've never seen or smelled anything like it in my life and hope I'll never do so again. I gave your friend some medicine and thankfully it seemed to be working. He's finally feeling a little more like himself. My apologies for making you go alone, friend. I still can't quite stand up straight, but I feel much better when I arrived. Tell me, were you able to learn anything of interest from the townspeople? A full moon the night before and a strong tide floating up into the river. It would seem that this is what we call a tidal bore. The fact that these fish are typically not seen near the coast is strangely reminiscent of our whale problem as well. No, this cannot be mere coincidence. The matter of these fish that are supposedly carried upstream into the woods intrigues me as well. Assuming they're still alive, they would provide much more useful data than those rotting corpses on the beach. If we were to analyze them and find them in a similar etheric state as the whale and Charnian, we could safely conclude that both events were caused by the same, or at least a similar, phenomenon. I'm terribly sorry to impose upon you again, but could you go catch those fish for me? They might very well be the key to solving this mystery. From a fisherman's description, swimming upstream, you said. I suspect we are looking for Alnairan salmon. If so, those leeches used on the clams in Garlemald should serve you well again here. Got one. I love to impose, but you must go into the woods and catch those fish for me. I didn't come over this way just to get myself sick. I must solve this mystery. Ah, thank the gods. And thank you, my friend. I would have hated to go home with nothing but the memory of my worst bout of aether sickness ever. I'm happy to report, but I also made some progress myself. I had a word with the alchemist who helped me. It turns out they have keen interest in aether as well. We had an exchange of views that was most stimulating. I may not have been able to do much while I was here, but I'm glad I made the effort to leave the studium for once. Now it's time to return so I can make use of this new knowledge and analyze the sample you so kindly wheeled in for me. Alas, while we may not need to use that god-awful experimental aetherite to travel back, an aetherite is still an aetherite, heavens of mercy. Good to see you return. Needless to say, the trip was a rough one for me. Thankfully, it wasn't nearly as uncomfortable as that dreadful experimental aetherite. I've just about finished analyzing the fish you caught in Fafnir. As expected, its aether levels are almost identical to those of the Wayward Vale. So you believe that a sudden change in the concentration of aether in the nearby currents caused them to completely alter the behavior? Precisely. That said, the change was of such magnitude that I would struggle to explain it with my initial hypothesis of aether tides. On the contrary, if such sudden changes are possible, then I may have to reconsider my premise altogether. Moreover, we can't safely return the whale to the sea unless we know precisely what is at the root of his problem. Might the title bore hold the answer? Yes, I do remember considering that when you shared the people's tales with me. If we posit that the underwater aether currents are affected by the moon, much as the tide itself, then any sudden change in the moon state would naturally affect underwater aether levels as well. Recent changes in the moon. By the scholar, that's it. The destruction of Zodiark would have freed an unfathomable amount of aether from within the moon. It would be only logical if this had an impact on the underwater aether currents. If this is the explanation, my initial theory may yet be viable, with this recent outpouring of aether being the exception that proves the rule. We will need to watch closely for any similar incidents in the near future. Ah, Talaka, what is it you have braved the journey by aetherite to do some fieldwork in Fafnir? Did you find out of interest there? I see. A word of advice, if I may. Any researcher worth his salt must be prepared to rethink and re-evaluate their theories when presented with new evidence. Have you given any thought to how you might adapt yours? My initial theory, to a degree, predicated on the existence of Zodiark. Now that he is no more, I'm not entirely sure how we might... Unless we could? Yes, that's it. We could examine a species altogether more ancient, from a time when the heavens were free of Zodiark and other entities of high etheric concentration. Professor, please, this is no time for idle jests. I'm being perfectly serious. I have a complete confidence that Desiree here will be able to find what we require. I do not doubt her skills, but even the best of cleaners would struggle to find specimen of species that doubtless died out ages ago. Oh, ye of little faith. Our friend is more than up to the task. Isn't that so? Now that's the spirit, Tilak. A good scholar must consider every possible action, even those that might seem impossible. Keep pondering the matter, and I have no doubt you will arrive at an answer ere long. I spend all my time in Searcher's Meet these days. Back to the old one. Fish time forgot. Oh, hello there. I've been racking my brains trying to come up with new ideas. Alas, nothing has come to me thus far. No matter how much I ponder, I keep coming back to the same thought. I have to get my hands on some specimens from a time before Zodiark came to be. I simply can't accept that all the work we have put into confirming my theory might amount to naught in the end. You know what? Give me any idea you've got, no matter how outlandish it may seem. Please, Desiree, I'm in dire need of inspiration. So all you need is an ancient fish, right? Oh, but you... Wait, do you truly mean it? Huh. As a scholar, I would love to probe deeper into details of exactly how you mean to do this, but there is hardly the time for idle chatter. If you can indeed procure this sample for me, I beg of you, please do it. Why, this could very well be the solution to what I thought an insurmountable problem. Ideally, I would examine an ancient specimen that shares some common traits with creatures that still exist today. Reading through Professor Nerd's tomes, I remember thinking that a species called the Smaragdos would be perfect. I know not where you mean to find them, but I wish you safety and good fortune in your journey, Desiree. Use a sky spoon lure to fish some Smaragdos from Lethe in Elpis. Can I get them here? I don't think so. There was a lure, but I think it wasn't Sky Spoon. Okay, level 80 script stuff. Okay, and the latter is this place in the northeast of Elpis. So okay, by now I feel the level 80 gear. Someday when I'm done with my thesis, you will have to tell me all about how you seemingly can do the impossible. Are my eyes to be believed? An actual Smaragdos, and it's even more impressive than anything I saw in my books. I don't know how you accomplished this, Desiree, but you have my eternal gratitude. I've just finished a preliminary analysis of its Smaragdos, and needless to say, it's proved truly fascinating. Incidentally, I recently overheard some of the senior members of the faculty discussing the days before the world was sundered. This led to me wondering just how far back you traveled. I have long heard rumors of a collective of goblin scientists who were attempting to traverse the fabric of time itself. To be honest, I always thought it a mere jest. But is it possible to use such a method to journey into the past yourself? But I will not ask you to reveal your secrets. Not now. You've provided me with exactly what I need to break this impasse in my research, and I must seize the opportunity. At any rate, examining the relative state of Smaragd's scales, it appears quite evident that the levels of aether in the underwater currents fluctuated regular, even in those pre-Zodiark days. That said, the shifts in concentration appear to be much gentler compared to the present day. I suspect that the inflated aether levels of the moon caused by the presence of Zodiark are the key to explaining this change. Put simply, these recent incidents have a manifestation of aether levels returning to how they once were so very long ago. Frankly, I should be elated. This effectively proves my hypothesis correct. However, something does not sit right with me. I feel like I must do more than just identify what is happening. How can I sit around here in my office poring over specimens and tomes while those poor sea creatures are suffering? The next rail might very well come ashore to its doom, like the fish in Fafnir. Oh, thank you for coming, Professor Nell. I'm most pleased to say that with Desiree's help, I believe I'll finally be able to finish my thesis. Is this to say you truly were able to obtain a specimen from ancient times? Impressive, yes, most impressive indeed. Truth be told, the senior faculty of the studio have been aware of this form of travel for some time now. Sadly, as much as I argued your case, I was strictly forbidden from granting you access to it. Fortunate are you to have Desiree at your side. With your diligence and aptitude and her unparalleled gleaning skills, I'm expecting greater and greater things from your thesis. I knew it. So, if I'm promoted to full professorship, may I gain access to that knowledge as well? Then I must work even harder toward that goal. And yet, at the same time, I find myself with a dilemma. Is it not selfish of me to focus entirely on my own research at a time like this? Is it not my duty as a scholar to help in a more concrete manner? Very astute questions, Rose, and questions for which you must find your own answer. Of course, none would object if you were to publish your findings. You have done more than enough to support up-and-coming researchers at the Studium, and your work would doubtless prove a fine starting point for any who wish to explore the subject further. There are plenty of academics who are driven wholly by their own curiosity, who devote their entire lives to their studies, and research for its own sake. However, there's also demand for another type of researcher, one who uses their findings to seek out tangible solutions to the problems of our world. Your research has brought you face to face with innocent creatures in peril, and united you with a brave companion who has traveled to the edge of the world and beyond for you. It is little surprise you might find new motivation from their presence. Yet at the end of the day, it's your choice to make. You must decide what inspires you most as a scholar. That is all I can say. As always, Professor Nels gave me much to ponder. Up until now, I'd simply enjoyed solving the mysteries of the world through my research. Only now have I begun to realize there may be more to it than that. Forgive me, but I would like to consider the matter further. Might I be able to count on your aid again once my mind is made up? I swear I feel there's no limit to what I might achieve as long as you are by my side. Tilakatia is thrilled with your effort. He now considers you a fantastic fisher. And level 90. Desiree, always a pleasure to see you. I fear I haven't quite made up my mind regarding the issue we discussed last time. Please don't be overly concerned. I fully intend to finish writing my thesis for the upcoming conference. At the same time, I can't stop thinking about what Professor Nell said. In fact, I was just thinking I'd head to Tranquility to be alone with my thoughts for a while. Would you mind joining me a bit later? An exchange of ideas might do me well. Ah, thank you for coming. Do you recall how Professor Nell encouraged me to consider what path would most inspire me? I was thinking it over and it occurred to me. Had I not met you, I doubtless would have continued to use my aether sickness as an excuse to stay cooped up in my studium forever. Likely would have succumbed to the weight of expectations and given up on my research entirely. Thanks to you, however, I was able to obtain the data I had so long sought, and now my thesis is nearly complete. For that, you have my eternal thanks. And yet, I'm now struck with a profound feeling that I must do more. I must seek even greater heights. I suspect my colleagues would laugh me out of the room if I heard this, but I have a mind to obtain data from the moon itself. If I can only get my hands on that, I'm confident that I could find a way to stabilize the aether currents, and in doing so, save the poor creatures of the sea from their suffering. Yes, there's no time to rest on my laurels. There's so much more that must be done. Of course, I'll hardly be able to accomplish this on my own. What do you say? Will you lend me your help one last time? I can hardly turn you down now, can I? Oh, thank you. I promise that this will be the last request I make of you. As for precisely what I would have you procure, this is where it gets a bit complicated. Normally I would reference the tomes in Numenor, but as one might expect, none of them cover the ecosystem of a moon. Perhaps you might seek advice from those who reside in Mare Lamentorum? If anyone could tell you what's worth catching, I suppose it would be them. In the meantime, I shall focus on the writing of my thesis. I cannot wait to see what sort of exotic specimen you find for me this time. Perhaps one of the knowledgeable Loperates of Best Race Power can point you in the right direction. Knowledgeable Loperate. Well, hello there, Desiree. Whatever brings you here today? You don't say. That strikes me as a rather curious thing to be researching, but to each their own, I suppose. At any rate, I do believe the most representative specimen of the aquatic ecosystem is a fish we call the lunar lamenter. There's quite plentiful in the waters of Valles Vulnerus. They're known to have a fondness for grey worms, which we suspect is one of the reasons they taste so atrocious. Believe me, you won't find any of our chefs complaining if you take home your fair share. That said, it's most surprising to hear that the destruction of Zodiark has impacted your world so. Do be careful down there, yes? Grey worms. Do you have grey worms? Of course, the only place they have fish here on the moon. The caves. At least I think that's the only place. Where else would you fish here? The sand? I mean, it's possible we fished in sand before, but... Okay, Telakatia. You're back. I'd love nothing more than for you to regale me with tales of the moon, but before that, do I smell what I think I smell? A stinky fish? Incredible. So this was sort of creature that dwells in the lunar seas. I can't wait to dig in and start examining it. But there's no telling until I see the data. I'm quite confident this discovery will allow me to revise my theory and complete my thesis. I'll be making my presentation at Phenomenon, but to be honest, I've never been very good at talking in front of a senior faculty. Might you be so kind as to come sit in the audience? Just knowing that I had a friend among the audience would go a long way to putting your heart at ease. Normally only the faculty and students are allowed to attend such events, but I'll have a word with the administrators. Given all you've contributed to my research, I can see no reason you shouldn't be permitted to attend. Let's see now. 1. Summarize my latest findings. 2. Prepare my presentation. Oh, I mustn't forget to check back in with a whale. Dear me, I feel like I'm being pulled in 100 different directions. Ah, you must be Professor Telakatia's guest. Please, go right in. I do believe your friend's presentation is about to get underway. Thank you for assembling here today, everyone. I'm Telakatia, an associate professor here in the Faculty of Aetherology, and today I would like to present my recent findings from my research on aether currents. You can do it. You know you can. My presentation is entitled Aether Tide, on the waxing and waning of aether levels in underwater currents. Simply put, my hypothesis was thus. The world's underwater aether ebb and flow in tandem. When the concentration of aether drops in one area, it rises in another. The phenomenon repeats itself periodically. Long did I believe this was so, but never was I able to accumulate sufficient data to prove it for certain. This all changed recently thanks to the talents of a truly remarkable gleaner who risked life and limb to gather the samples I needed. In the course of my research, however, I had also discovered many things which I had never imagined at the outset. First and foremost among these was the aether Zodiark exerted upon those self-same currents. Now, as you all know, Zodiark is no more. As such, aether levels are temporarily fluctuated across our entire star as the etheric state of our world gradually readjusts to what it was in the days of yore, before Zodiark came into being. Having had the fortune recently to analyze some samples obtained from the lunar surface, it has become apparent that this fluctuation in aether levels was at its most dramatic during a full moon. We have reason to suspect that the recent incident with a wayward whale was also caused by the selfsame phenomenon. In other words, a sudden change in the local aether levels caused it to suffer from symptoms akin to severe aether sickness. Needless to say, this would be all mere speculation if it were not corroborated with concrete data. To that end, kindly turn to page 14 in the booklet I have handed out and take a moment to peruse the chart on that page. Quite fascinating. Many scholars stubbornly stick to their initial convictions despite the circumstances, but you have clearly taken even the most recent developments into consideration in fleshing out your thesis. Admirable indeed. You're too kind, Professor, and yet there's more I would share. Utilizing my own findings in combination with alchemical techniques I learned from my colleagues in Fafnir, I do believe I have crafted a spell that might help to stabilize the underwater aether currents. More so than my academic findings, I believe this to be my greatest accomplishment. Isolating the relationship between the moon and the underwater aether currents was an important first step, no doubt, but helping those suffering creatures will be of far greater import in the end. Our planet is currently in a state of transition. I suspect the imbalance in aether levels will continue for quite a while still. And so I intend to do everything in my power to minimize its effects of this on both beast and man until our etheric environment stabilizes and returns to normal. Thank you, Telakatia. We shall inform you of your evaluation in due time. In the meantime, pray continue to attend to that poor beast in the harbor. We wish you the best of luck. Thank you, Professor. There you are. I simply had to tell you before anyone else. My colleagues couldn't stop praising my thesis, and to say I could never have gotten to this day without your help would be an understatement. Not only have I secured more funding to continue my research, but I've also been promoted to a full-fledged tenured professor. I simply cannot believe that the day has come that I can wear this prestigious gown. Why, I've dreamed of this since the very first day I set foot in the studium. Looks good on you. Oh, you're far too kind. I still have a long way to go before I'd be worthy of this garb in the way that, say, Professor Nell is. I always believed in Telaka's potential, but I dare say he would have been hard-pressed to fulfill it were it not for his fortuitous meeting with you. For that I too owe you my thanks. Oh, and this is neither here nor there, really, but I received some rather delightful news recently from Faculty of Medicine. It would seem the professor there, who was researching methods for treating the whale, has developed an experimental medicine that can lessen the effects of aether sickness. Even more fortuitous is said to work even better on men than on beasts. Yes, with this new medicine at my disposal, I can finally take responsibility for my own fieldwork and stop forcing generous cleaners such as yourself to travel in my stead. Just think of all the places I go. Distant lands, the open sea, why, maybe even the moon. I simply can't wait to really stretch my legs and explore the world. Good for you. And that I'd best be off. But this isn't farewell. Not by a long shot. I have no doubt our paths will cross again somewhere upon the distant sea. I thank you once again for everything, my friend. Bye, whale. I'm standing here in this new gown, but to be honest, it still hasn't sunk in. Congratulations to Lakatia. You have come far indeed, and you have earned every bit of it through your diligence and dedication. And glad I am for it. For now, I've seen you realize the potential I always knew you had. I can finally retire with my heart at ease. Retire? Professor Nell, what are you saying? No need to act so surprised. I've been considering it for quite some time now. I'm no spring chicken, and there's little reason for me to cling to my position when promising researchers like you wait in the wings. Of course, I will continue to share my experiences with you if you so desire, but finding that which most inspires you and pursue it with all your body and soul, this is something you must do for yourself. I've already imparted all I can. You were able to find this in yourself in no small part through your chance encounter with Desiree. I was happy to be there for you along the way, but I dare say you will fare well enough without me. But, Professor, the future of aetherology is bright indeed, as long as young talents like yourself continue to research here. And so I very much look forward to hearing of your myriad achievements as I enjoy my golden days. And if you're ever in need of conversation, pray visit, that you might muse over the mysteries of a world, not as teacher and student, but as colleagues and friends. That would be delightful, Professor. I could not have asked for a greater parting gift than your vote of confidence. And thank you once again, Desiree. I will be continuing my research here at the studium, so do stop by whenever you would care to talk aetherology with my friend. Likewise, I look forward to hearing even more about your adventures in the far-flung lands you've been exploring. And perhaps, if you happen to come across any exotic species of fish, you could snag one or two for me, just for old time's sake. But you can't really turn in fish to him, so it doesn't really help. You have completed Tilakatia's tasks. Tilakatia could not be happier with your efforts. He now considers you a master fisher. Keep an eye out for others in the studium who require the help of an able artisan. You never know who might be in need of your skills. Sufficient data. It got pretty lively around here with all these new students helping out. I've also heard the faculty are most interested to learn what we got to research next, so I need to make sure we're equipped to tackle any tasks necessary. Don't you think the professor really looks the part now? I promise to do my best to keep supporting him in the future. Okay, but that will be it for the Fisher Rolequest and Tilakatia, at least for the time. After all, he promised we might meet again, but whether we do, we will see. And for that I say, until next time, when we play more Final Fantasy XIV, I'm Mace, and don't get lost.